And welcome back, rugby fans, to Rugby411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata, and this is our Week 9 power rankings for the Week 9 of the 225 MLR season. Man, Week 9 was an unpredictable week. A lot of amazing results. There has been a lot of changes in the power rankings, let me tell you. Because I wouldn't say that the results were a lot of upsets. It was just very, very surprising results. Also, kind of reflected in our SuperBru Pickem pool, which of course I'll go over the results of that. But man, yeah, there is a lot of movements. A lot of teams that were on the bottom are now at the top. A lot of teams that are at the top are at the bottom, especially one team in particular, which is why if you see the little title screen at the beginning of this video, is a not so happy Rugby411 with the results. But it is what it is, and with that being said, let me explain to you, if you've never seen my power ranking videos before, how it works. Your rankings based on what you do on the pitch, who you play against, where you play them at, because I do believe home pitch is a thing, how an impressive a victory you are, especially if you are a lower ranking team like what we've just discussed, beating an upper ranked team, man, you are going to shoot up. Likewise, if you were that upper ranking team losing to a lower ranked team, you are going to fall pretty hard. And again, if you are an upper ranked team beating down on a lower ranked team, you're probably not going to move nearly as high. It is not an exact science, but I feel it works out pretty well. So with that being said, let's get over with the easiest one of the power ranking. Still, number 11, still looking for their very first win. Anthem Rugby RC. Anthem Rugby Carolina. Honestly, I predicted at the very beginning, I felt that they would win 4 games this season. I don't think that's going to happen. They will win a game. I'm not going to change my prediction on that. They won't end the game winless, but man, it has been a heartbreaker for them because once again, they're losing a game by a very close margin, losing to the Chicago Hounds 20-28. It's been tough if you're an Anthem RSC fan. They are on I believe they have lost 24 games straight. Yeah, 24 games straight is the biggest losing streak in Major League Rugby history. And I feel a little spoiler with what's coming up. They're going to be going against New England and Seattle back to back in what is going to be called a storm week. I'll do a video about that because it's definitely going to be something interesting. This storm week that will be hitting Major League Rugby. Actually, it's a couple of storm weeks. More like a storm month, to be honest. But I'll go into more details in my upcoming video dealing with that and the ramifications of what it might have for a lot of Major League Rugby teams. It's going to be very interesting to see how teams deal with the storm week. But that being said, let's talk about this week in particular. Anthem loses to Chicago 20-28. After Chicago scored the very first try, Anthem got a penalty kick from Cameron Gerlach, who was a former RFCLA player. Didn't last long with the team, just a couple weeks before moving to Anthem. I'm very happy that he's found a home in Anthem. It looks like he's found a very comfortable position, fullback as well as kicking off the tee. Honestly, I thought that Cameron was very, very talented for the very little we saw of him, so I'm very happy for him. Hope that he has a bright future with Anthem Rugby. Young talent will go very far, I feel, with Anthem. After that penalty kick, though, Dylan the Butcher Fawcett got a couple of tries, which we'll talk a little bit more when we get to the Chicago side of things. At the half, though, Anthem only down by just a little bit. It's just, unfortunately, a lot of penalties hit Anthem, which is what really caused them to have the problem. Anthem had more possession than Chicago in this game, but just a lot of mistakes on their side, and Chicago is definitely not a team you want to make mistakes for because they will make you pay for them. At the beginning of the second half, Mason Fleisch scored a couple of tries, and Anthem was able to score a try at the very end to make the game 20-28, to get within 8 with 10 minutes left in the game. But unfortunately, it was a little too late. Chicago, I felt, and I'll talk a little bit more when we get to Chicago, might have pulled their foot off the gas just a little bit, especially near the end. But Chicago really came on strong in that first half, and Anthem just couldn't keep up. So Anthem, once again, still searching for their very first win. As I mentioned before, 24 straight losses, a Major League Rugby record that I'm sure Anthem is really, really hoping they break soon. Now, worst part of doing these power rankings, especially when you are a big fan of a certain team and work for them, it hurts when that team falls, and it hurts even more when that team falls from a very, very high position. But it's the only way it makes sense. It's the only way that makes sense. Formerly your number one team, dropping all the way from 1 down, that's right, to 10. Huge 9-spot drop. Anthem Rugby Carolina drops, losing to Utah 45-28. A really, I'm just gonna be brutally honest, because that's what this channel is all about. I am very honest with my fandom for RFCLA, but I'll also be very critical and honest about the performance. It was a very, very disappointing performance by RFCLA. Now, let's put it into context. First half, RFCLA is down 3 tries, but then last 10 minutes of that first half, man, RFCLA came back hot, scoring 3 tries, one right after the other, especially after Utah got a yellow card. Now, one of the reasons why RFCLA was down was they also got a yellow card off of a penalty try. Unfortunately, RFCLA's maul defense just is never good. They have, I don't know what the stat is. It's probably something that MLR stats. If you haven't checked them out, definitely check them out. They are a great Instagram site with all the stats and figures that you need. They also run NARugbydB.com, the National Rugby Database, the North American Rugby Database.com. That also has all the stats on not only Major League Rugby, but as well as WER, the first women's pro rugby league in the United States, in North America. And I don't know how many mauls RFCLA has given up, but they've given up a lot. And unfortunately, every time they usually do, they try to do a penalty, they try to do something illegal to stop the try, and it ends up just being a penalty try. So RFCLA did get a penalty try. They got a yellow card. They're 18th of the season, well ahead of any other team. I think second place is only with 12 cards. So again, a lot of things at RFCLA I've mentioned before. I have a podcast about RFCLA, Notes from the Clubhouse. Check it out if you can. But I mentioned that what would hurt RFCLA is if they give up some penalties and they're not careful about a certain D'Angelo Luila, who was phenomenal in this game. And I'll talk about them more when I talk about Utah. But again, RFCLA gave up 3 tries in the very first half, but then they came back. Andrew Coe scored a try. Billy Meeks scored a try. And then Reese McDonald, oh my God, he is such a game changer. First time starting for RFCLA. You should watch the highlight of how he got this kick from out of nowhere in. He just broke and made the run and scored his very first try as an RFCLA player. Such a phenomenal player for RFCLA. So RFCLA ties up this game 21-21 in the first half. And then the second half, we've seen this before, just completely falls apart. Allows Utah to get 24 points to just 1 try by RFCLA. The defense just was very dismal, a lot of penalties. There were a lot of opportunities that RFCLA was able to score, but unfortunately Utah just shuts the door down, and just RFCLA just looks so flat. Now, we should also put this into context. A very rare occasion, and it's very, very unfortunate. During the second half, during the halftime, if you didn't watch the game or the telecast, one of the members of RFCLA during the first half, Declan Laney, suffered a pretty severe injury. So severe that he had to be rushed to the hospital during the first half. Now, fortunately, this is basically a role to protect all players. Any kind of sporting event in the state of California, you have to have legally an ambulance on the premises. Unfortunately, when Declan Laney had to be taken away by ambulance, that means there was no ambulance available. So during the halftime, the ambulance was not able to come back just yet. So that delayed the start of the second half. Usually halftime is about 20 minutes. I believe that halftime ended up going close to 50. So 30 minutes of an extended halftime. Teams are kind of cool. Granted, both teams are facing the same situation. Both teams have to work their way to warm themselves up. But the momentum, arguably, that RFCLA had going into the half, because we scored the last 3 tries to tie the game, completely gone. And unfortunately, RFCLA not able to capitalize on that momentum. Now, with that being said, I was able to speak to Declan Laney just briefly recently through social media. He says he's okay. It is a pretty severe injury. Didn't want to go into too much detail. So, of course, our prayers to Declan Laney. He's a great guy. We really do hope that he gets better. We're hoping that it's not too serious, but definitely looks like it's probably going to be a season-ending injury. Again, it's horrible. So the reason why there is an extension at halftime is there's a very valid reason, but definitely did help with RFCLA. And man, RFCLA it was a very, very disappointing loss at home. That's the reason why, honestly, I dropped RFCLA so far, and I really couldn't justify them not going as far as they did. It also doesn't help that the next team, Seattle, had a bye, so I don't believe in letting that team that has a bye either move up or down. So I couldn't have RCLA stop at 9. They had to stop at 10, unfortunately. So it is what it is, but RCLA was one of the biggest drops in power ranking history, dropping 9 spots all the way to number 10. Dropping a couple spots themselves, 4 spots from number 4 to number 8. Another interesting loss, Old Glory losing to NOLA, 51-29. Now again, a pretty lopsided score with this one, but this game was at NOLA, at the gold mine. So because of that, I give Old Glory a little bit of leeway because they lose away. Road games are hard. It's hard to win away. RCLA lost at home. Utah dominated away at LA. So, little spoiler, Utah's pretty up there. Not spoiling a lot, but just to let you know, that win away really does weigh a lot in these power rankings. So, Old Glory does fall 4 spots, but I couldn't justify them falling further than RFCLA because they did lose away at the NOLA Gold Mine. But let's talk about that game. So, NOLA strikes quick to score 2 early tries, one of them due to a yellow card that Old Glory got. But then Old Glory powered back with a couple of tries of their own, including one that they scored with a man down because of that yellow card. NOLA's up, though, 24-12 at the half. In the second half, NOLA scores a couple more tries thanks to Xavier Mignot, who returns. I'll talk about more when I talk about NOLA. Old Glory tried their best to hang into this game, but man, just like with Charlotte and RCLA, 8 penalties to Old Glory during at least the first half, and a lot of handling errors. So Old Glory just didn't have enough to compete with NOLA, so they lose 51-29. Very disappointing loss for Old Glory. Another surprising loss, San Diego dropping down to number 7 from number 6, just 1 spot, because they lost to New England, who New England was only ahead of them by 1 spot anyways. But kind of surprising, losing to New England 39-12. Again, San Diego losing in Veterans Memorial Stadium in Connecticut, in the New England area. And again, San Diego losing to a team that's just above them, so they don't move too much. But for a team that started off really hot, 5 wins with 1 loss, this is the 3rd straight loss for the San Diego Legion. Just honestly, New England is looking really, really good, but I was very surprised by these results as well. San Diego just looked flat in this game. San Diego got a yellow card in the game, which allowed New England to score a couple tries. By the half, 22-7, San Diego again A lot of penalties in this game for them as well. They had 10 overall. You're never going to win a game if you're in the double digits when it comes to penalties. New England dominated the second half. San Diego does score a try by Richard Judd near the very end, but a very disappointing loss for San Diego, 39-12. Again, San Diego started really hot, 5-1, looking like the world beaters, but now dropping 3 straight. And especially in the competitive Western Conference with Utah now looking like they're the hottest team, San Diego really needs to start picking it up. Otherwise, they might be left out of the playoff position. Then, moving down a couple spots themselves, another surprising development. Houston SaberCats, another team looking really strong at the beginning of the season, dropping their second game in a row, this time to Miami, 31-22. Again, this game being played in Miami, so I couldn't justify them dropping further than RCLA because they lost away. But another surprising game in this one. Miami scores first, but then Houston scored. Houston looked like they scored, but unfortunately, a TMO review, there was a knock on. That would happen actually a couple times to Houston. Houston does score a try after Miami botches a kick return, but Miami pretty dominant in this game. Halftime is 24-5. It doesn't get any better or any easier for Houston. Houston does get a score by former RCL player Wilton Rebolo off of a maul, but just not enough for this game. Houston falls 31-22. I do have to mention AJ Alatimu, unfortunately, having a very, very, very tough season so far. Davey Coutier, once again, still not playing because of some sort of injury. AJ Alatimu has to take that fly half position. Unfortunately, in this game, 0 for 3 off of the tee. He is 8 for 16 off of the tee overall this season. 50% conversion rate. And that is never very good. You definitely want to be in at least the 70s. 50% conversion rate, you're not going to win too many games. And I'm not saying that, those points would have mattered, but I mean, if he made all 3 of those conversions, the score would have been 28-31. So at least Houston would have gotten a bonus point, and maybe there would have been some sort of motivation for Houston to still compete because the game would have been a lot closer. So obviously, Houston really hoping Dave Coutier comes back. AJ Alatimu obviously hoping that he finds his mojo because he's a great, talented player. But right now, Houston is kind of stumbling, just like San Diego, just like the whole Western Conference seems to be, except for Utah. So what once was the very competitive Western Conference, looking like everybody kind of took a fall in week number 9. And then we move on, obviously, with all the winners now. So Miami, we talked about them putting the beating on Houston. So they jump up from number 10 all the way to number 5 for that win, just because of how everybody else kind of slid down. Miami gets the benefit from that. In that game, I do want to mention Shane O'Leary, who has been the fly half for Miami, coming in a couple of weeks ago because Martin Elias, who's usually a very reliable Argentinian fly half for Miami, out with injury, so Shane O'Leary has stepped in. He has been phenomenal so far. Has 11 points in this game against Houston. A perfect 5 for 5 off the tee. I do have to say, while Miami was up at halftime, 24-5, also contributing to that 24-5 score in the first half, the very first Major League Rugby try to Jojo Mora, who is formerly a Canadian Sevens player, is now making his 15s debut with Major League Rugby. Congratulations to Jojo. Phenomenal player. Great talent for Miami. Gets his very first Major League Rugby try. After being up 24-5, I felt Miami kind of took their foot off the gas. Only scored a couple points for 31-22 finish. But again, big win for Miami, moving up a couple of spots. Then, number 4, again, the surprising development here, New England. Looks like they're finding their mojo back. Looking like the team who is your reigning, defending, two-time Major League Rugby champion. After starting the season, I believe they started 2-3 are now making it 3 straight wins in a row. So now they are 5-3, looking very much like the dominant New England team that we know. Now, a very interesting development in this game, though, unfortunately. The very reliable fly half that all of a sudden popped up for New England, Felatoi Penne, unfortunately suffered a pretty severe injury, so much so that he had to be carted off. Now, granted, he gave the thumbs up, he was waving to the crowd, looks like he's okay. Could be that they took him off on the stretcher for precautionary purposes. Don't know quite yet what the status is. But man, already I feel New England's struggle might have happened because Jason Patros, who is the star player for New England, reliable, I feel a good portion of reliability wise, why New England is a two-time defending and reigning MLR champions. He has been out for a while. Felatoi Penne has been the guy who's kind of stepped up into his boots. But if he goes out now with this injury, I don't know if New England's going to continue looking as good as they have been so far. I do also got to mention that Jack Reeves, a young star for New England, has kind of popped up. Got a brace in this game. He has had 3 tries over the last 2 games. He's looking pretty phenomenal. Could be an early contender for a Rookie of the Year for New England. But New England, again, looking pretty good. We'll see what Felatoi Penne's status is going into this next week's game. Also, too, New England has a couple of games coming in a very short amount of time thanks to Storm Week. So we'll see how New England reacts to that. We'll see how all the teams react to that. But right now, New England going on the up. Moved up a couple spots to number 4 from the number 5 position. Then, also moving up a couple of spots is the NOLA Gold from number 8 all the way up to number 3 after their impressive win over Old Glory, 51-29. Huge win for NOLA. I do got to mention with NOLA that we have the return of French player Xavier Mignot, who before his injury that took him out for a couple weeks was looking phenomenal for NOLA. Has a hat trick in this game. Big contributor to that 51 score. NOLA looked surprisingly great. Now, again, NOLA has been kind of a shaky team so far the last couple of seasons. I don't know if this was due to Old Glory being off this week and NOLA just capitalizing, or is this believing that NOLA is as good as they are advertised. Number 2, Chicago Hounds. After a very narrow victory over Anthem Rugby Carolina, 28-20. Not as impressive as you're hoping for a team facing against a team that has yet to win a game in their franchise career. Because of that, that's the reason why I didn't move them up to number 1. Because I felt the number 1 team, Utah Warriors, looked much more impressive with their thumping of the former number 1 team, RFCLA, in LA. So that's why I put them up to number 1. Now, let's talk about Chicago because we do have to make a mention of Dylan the Butcher Fawcett. 2 tries in this game, his 60th and 61 try of the year. He, of course, has the most tries in all of Major League Rugby history, but also the very first player to hit that 60-mark plateau. So congratulations to you, Dylan the Butcher Fawcett. For Utah, another person that hit a milestone and also 2 tries in the game against RCLA is Joe Mono, who also scored his league-leading 6th and 7th try. So he leads the league right now in tries for this year. But those 2 tries put him up to tied in 4th place with Mikey Teo with 32 tries. Right ahead of him is Dylan, is Rickard Hadding, and Paula Balakana right above them. So, yeah, Utah, I mean, God, there's really not much I could say. D'Angelo Luila is phenomenal. As I mentioned before, he would be a big weapon for Utah, and sure enough, you give the ball to D'Angelo Luila, he can place it anywhere. One of the tries by Joe Mono was a beautiful kick pass from across the pitch to the other side, and Joe Mono wide open. Literally nobody was marking Joe Mono because nobody realized he was over there. but D'Angelo Luila did. And again, D'Angelo Luila was a perfect off of the tee. You give him the ability, he will kick goals. And he has been phenomenal. Another guy who's on the short list of rookie or at least MVP of the year for Major League Rugby. And a big reason why Utah defeated RCLA, and a big reason why they're in number one. To the chagrin of myself. So those are the power rankings, and very interesting development because pretty much for this whole season so far, the Western Conference has been dominant. Now all of a sudden, your top 4 teams, 3 of them are from the Eastern Conference. Number 5 is from the Eastern Conference, and then you have the rest of the Western Conference kind of limping behind. So it's funny how things kind of develop and change this way. Again, anything can happen in the next couple of weeks. We are facing Storm Week. And a lot of things can happen there because teams are now going to have to really deal with playing a bunch of games in a very short amount of time. Again, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, I will do a video because this is huge. This is the first time that MLR is doing Storm Week. I'll explain why it's necessary for them to do it, or at least why they're doing it. And again, the ramifications, because it's going to be huge and it's really going to test coaching staff, and team management on how to deal with the upcoming month with these storms. And if you don't like this effect, you're going to have to deal with this, especially with the next video, because it's going to be a lot of that. Now, let's talk about, because of all this movement in the power rankings, let's talk about our SuperBru Pickem results, because it was a slaughter, as in not a lot of people got high scores on this one. But somebody has stepped up and claimed the golden cap. And congratulations to Julie, EGW, back-to-back golden caps. Congratulations. That's amazing, Julie. Congratulations to that. But just to show you how tough it was, her final score was 4.83 out of a possible 14.5. That is the highest score out of our SuperBru Pick'em pool. It was tough. Julie, I believe, was also the only person to pick 4 out of the 5 possible games correct. And I feel that's the reason why she actually got the golden cap instead of Theo God, who actually had the same score, just didn't get 4 out of the 5 teams. I believe he only got 3. So Julie GW gets the golden cap. Theo God technically tied with her for first. Mr. Rugby right behind with 4, and then KDC and the reviewer 812, whose name I don't say enough than I should, came in the rear 3.5, tied for 4th. Unfortunately, Nathan, our former gold cap winner, was sitting with the wooden spoon. Now, because of that, surprisingly, not a lot has changed in our overall top 5. CrossFox still sits there at the top spot with 42, but Julie GW jumps up 2 spots because of that golden cap and is right behind CrossFox, breathing down his neck. 39.83 points total. She is 2.17 points behind. Really, really close. Julie GW could overtake CrossFox if CrossFox isn't careful. Right behind them is John from Rugby Morning, 37.83. And then unfortunately Nathan, because of the wooden spoon, drops down 2 spots himself, 37.5. And then Sarai, really don't know how to say it, is sitting in 5th place, 35.75. Bottom 5, not much movement in this one. Leon moves up the spot to 24, 26.5, and Theo God, because of his good performance this week, moves up a spot to 25, 26.33 points. Unfortunately, that means Sunshine drops down 2 spots to 26, and then GMV Rugby and Melbourne Rocker are sitting still in 27th and 28th, respectively. So, yeah, it was a very, very interesting week, and man, it's going to get even more interesting, because, spoiler, when we talk about our next video, when we preview this upcoming week, week 10, there's going to be a lot more games coming at you in week 10. So, just fair warning for those of you who play SuperBru Pick'em, you definitely got to pay attention to the next video, because there's more than just the weekend games. There's actually 2 extra day of games that are going to be composing week number 10. So, again, pay attention, make sure you get all the picks in that you're supposed to, because week 10 is extended because there's more games being played than normal. And again, if you don't understand what I'm talking about, we'll talk about Storm Week. We'll talk about that in an upcoming video as well. So again, thank you very much as always for checking out my videos. I do appreciate the support. I have a podcast coming out, and I've already mentioned it before. Notes from the Clubhouse, an RFCLA podcast. If you can subscribe, it is up on Spotify. I'm sorry, not Spotify. It is up on Apple Podcasts. Check it out. Give me a review, subscribe. Just trying to build it up. Even if you're not an RFCLA fan, it would really mean the most to me if you've at least just subscribed and, maybe give it a little bit of a listen. If you are an RFCLA fan or want to be an RFCLA fan, especially in the LA area, definitely give it a listen. It is the unofficial podcast of RFCLA, but hosted by yours truly. But it's definitely something that I'm putting a lot of love and work into, and I just would really like a little bit of support with that, just like you guys have been supporting my YouTube channel, and I do appreciate that tremendously. So, with that being said, thank you very much for watching my video. Always appreciate the support, and I'll see you